text and stuff as 316/417. I've never shared that story before.
Wow. Maybe a God wink moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any maybe about it. I mean, there are no coincidences. That's incredible. Wow. I love this conversation.
That's from the Sean Ryan Show, the ex-Navy SEAL, Sean Ryan, interviewing Tim Tebow, the American football quarterback turn God's vessel. An amazing story. Absolutely amazing. A hero.
Yeah, that's a DOJ database, and every one of those red dot maps is a unique IP address that is downloaded, shared, or distributing child rape images, almost all under the age of 12. And that's just a 6-month screenshot of it, and there are over 338,000 on there. And if you could also look, there's blue dots on there. You can't really see them, but the blue ones are the ones that are under investigation.
In a sea of red.
Isn't that a problem of what we're talking about?
That's a problem.
It's unbelievable. It's overwhelming. So let me ask you, against all of this backdrop, tell us about Operation Renewed Hope, what it is, how it works to help kids who are unidentified, who are trapped in abuse. What does Operation Renewed Hope do?
Well, it does a few things. It's bringing together law enforcement and victim identification specialists from all over the world to work together in the same room with the best technology and the best training. And it's amazing what happens when you do that, to be able to see the results. Operation Renewed Hope 1 had 316 identifications. The next one, Renewed Hope 2, had 417 identifications. Renewed Hope 3 had 387 identifications. And with all of that, over 550 of the boys and girls have been safeguarded. And we're praying that Operation Renewed Hope 4 blows the first 3 away.
So it's a surge of resources, forensic analysis, tools for victim identification. It's a surge of resources for a few weeks. Is that right?
2-week sprint, yes.
2-week sprint. So just imagine what might be possible if instead of a 2-week sprint, we made it permanent. If Congress permanently surged resources toward victim identification.
Well, I think to back up for just a second, a few things that are important to mention is at C3, the Cybercrime Center, who is the best of the best in this space, there are 10 victim identification specialists. And one of the things that we are asking Congress is to authorize so that they can hire more. That's one of the things the Renewed Hope Act does, is it allows them to hire 200 positions. 70 of them will be at C3 and 130 of them will be in the field. So imagine our chance of fighting back against this evil if we go from 10 to 200. We have much better odds. Could you imagine if any business or any area in life, and we would say, you got at least 89,000 boys and girls that you have to identify, and hey, here's 10 people that are amazing, and they're the best, and I love them very much, but it's 10 people's job to do that. In what area do we think we would be successful with those odds and those numbers? And that's one of the things that that Renewed Hope Act changes. And then I would say another thing is I would ask that we would fully fund the ICACs so that the ICACs could have all their funding, because they do amazing work in so many of the states and localities and districts around America that do this work as well. And so I think both of those would be two big asks that would make a radical difference.
But just the Interpol images show what we're looking at in terms of content of unidentified exploited children by the numbers. 84% of the images were of actual sexual abuse, not simulated, but actual. 47% of the NCMEC images contained extreme abuse, including actual rape. 60% of unidentified victims
shared
under 12.
online this.
60%. 65% of unidentified victims are girls. And almost 5% of the images were infants. These are just extraordinary numbers that give a sense of the scope of the epidemic that we're dealing with here. I just want to put a bow on what we were talking about so that people understand clearly 100% what needs to happen here, thinking about the tens of, probably hundreds of thousands of kids whose images are online but who are unidentified. What Congress could do right now is we could pass legislation that would fully fund new victim identification specialists, analysts on a permanent basis into the Department of Homeland Security and wherever else they might be helpful. We could do that on a permanent basis, and that would have a tremendous effect in identifying these kids, rescuing these kids, and bringing their perpetrators, their abusers to justice. Have I got that right?
Absolutely.
What else do we need to understand about what we need to do right now in order to help these kids?
I think to add on to what Ms. Jane was saying, one of the things that we would love is for the Supreme Court to hear the Doe versus Twitter case. And we are submitting an amicus brief on behalf of the two boys who were sextorted on Snapchat and then distributed on Twitter. That would be pretty helpful as well.
Well, that'd be fantastic.
pretty
That would
shit
be
does get
fantastic.
through on
It's,
these,
since you opened that
media
door, I'll just say
sites.
that it's time for Congress to pass legislation that removes the Section 230 shield that prevents these companies from ever being held accountable. These companies are so outrageous. You know, they're just outrageous. On the one hand, they claim, well, we're not publishers, therefore we can't be held accountable. And then they turn around and say, well, we're publishers, and therefore we have First Amendment immunity. That's just absurd. There's no company or corporation in America other than the social media companies who are completely and totally
When it comes to
shielded from
kids,
any kind of liability no matter what they do.
should
You know,
be
if your
dealt
car blows up, you can sue the car maker.
all for
And guess
freedom of
what? When you
speech.
do,
Anyone
the
who
cars
knows me
work a whole
knows
lot
that.
better. These social media
When it comes
companies,
to
Miss Doe,
children,
no victim in here today, not a one of you
needs to be
can get
screened.
into
It
court
needs to be
against these
taken
social
away.
media companies. That is just wrong. And I'll tell you why it is.
Obviously.
It's because the amount of money that flows to this body from those companies keeps the courtroom door shut for you.
Use.
We need to open it up, and we need to say that you're more important than any amount of money.
I'm not going to cover your athletic
Sean
career.
Ryan.
Yeah.
But what I would like to
Ex-Navy
cover,
SEAL.
I brought up numbers and 444, you know, for me. 316. I could dig into my notes, but I'm not going to. I'm not a big football guy, but 316 is painted on your eye black. And how many things added up to 316 during that game?
Yeah, the playoff game. Well, if I can back it up for just a second, give a little context. When I wore it for the national championship, honestly, I just put it under my eyes and I didn't really think about it. I was just so focused on trying to win the championship. And after the game, we finish and we win. And 2 days after the game, I'm sitting in Ballyhoo Restaurant in Gainesville, Florida, with my mom and my dad and Coach Meyer, and we're having dinner. And I didn't even think I was eating a piece of grouper at the time, because that moment, and Coach Meyer gets a call. And he answers it, and it's Steve McLean, our PR guy. And he's Coach Meyer's always so intense. He's like, what? What do you mean? And you know this? Really? Okay, bye. And I said, what? Who's that? What's all about? He said, this is Steve McLean, our PR guy. I said, what did he say? He said, Timmy, he just got the numbers back from the game. And he said, during the game, 94 million people Googled John 3:16. And I remember sitting there and just being so overwhelmed. I guess on one hand, I was like, how the heck do 94 million people not know John 3:16? But the
you know
other one is I was just
John
thinking, man,
3:16?
what a big God we serve. Like, when I first started putting eye blacks in the beginning of the year, I thought maybe someone with
Maybe I'll look
binoculars
now.
might see one, and it wasn't a big step of courage or faith. It was tiny. It's nothing. It was just putting a little eye black, because I saw some of my teammates, writing their area code or their mom's name on their eye black. And I thought maybe, someone might be encouraged. And I even thought about putting God bless under my eyes, but I was like, it might be too cheesy. So I did Philippians 4:13, and then I switched to John 3:16, and then I was just sitting there overwhelmed by what a big God we serve. Like, wow, and then I think it was the next day or something, another Sports Illustrated come out, and, the focal point is John 3:16. And you're like, oh my goodness, like, God, you're such a big God. Well, that game, that national championship game, was on January 8th of 2009. And exactly 3 years later, to the date I wore it, I was playing for the Denver Broncos, and we were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL playoffs. And it was on January 8th of 2012, exactly 3 years later. I had no idea. Honestly, I really feel like there was so much of me that was just selfish in that moment. And not all in the worst way, but some of it of just, man, I wanted to prove the doubters wrong. I wanted to show them we could do this. I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to win for my team and the fans, my family, and all of this. And again, that's all wrong, but there was a piece of it that was just selfish for me. And I had no idea it was 3 years later from the day. And we play this game and we win in overtime. I still think it's the fastest overtime in NFL history. And we win. It's a real moment. And it's just like, it's unbelievable. And the crowd stays for well over an hour after the game, going crazy and going to the locker room. And I changed and I got to go talk to the media and I don't really want to. And right before I walk in this big room packed full of media, there's all these curtains out front and I'm standing in front and Patrick, our PR guy, there steps in front of me, said, "Timmy, do you realize what happened?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we just beat the Steelers. We're going to play the Patriots." He's like, "Yeah, I know what happened, dude. Like, why'd you ask me such a silly question?" And he goes, "No, do you know what happened?" And I'm like, I thought I did. "Patrick, what happened?" Because you could just see this different demeanor. And he said, "Timmy, no, you don't know what happened. Timmy, it's exactly 3 years from the night that you wore John 3:16 under your eyes." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's awesome. That's so cool." And he said, no, you don't realize it. Timmy, during the game, you threw for 316 yards.
Coincidence?
And I'm like, "What?" And he said, "Timmy, during the game, your yards per rush were 3.16. Your yards per completion were 31.6. The ratings for the night were 31.6.
Coincidence?
And the
No.
time of possession was 31.6. And during the night, over 90 million people have Googled John 3:16. It's the #1 trending thing all over. And I think he even mentioned something about there were so many people tweeting about it that like Twitter even froze or something like that. At least that was what I was told. And I was standing in that hallway. And I don't think I had the reaction that a lot of people think I did. Because I went from a high and a celebration and a joy to a conviction and a disappointment.
Why?
Because when he was telling me that, I knew that God was convicting me, saying, "Timmy, you thought tonight was about a game. You thought it was about all of these things. It's never just about a game. I didn't die for a game." And I was so convicted, still grateful that God would use something, but convicted, man, my eyes were on the wrong thing. My heart was in the wrong place. I knew you. I knew what you'd done, but my heart was here and my eyes were here. I knew the truth. I just wasn't focused on it. I was having all of these selfish ambitions and goals. And it was also this reminder, but I can even use it when your heart's not right. I can even use you. I can use something that you did 3 years ago and started 3.5 years ago, and you didn't even know that I was doing something. Because I honestly thought after 3 years, when the first time I just thought, man, well, that's cool. But you also think, that's cool, God, but it's done. And he's like, no, you have no idea what I'm doing. You have no idea. And I was just so convicted. I didn't even want to walk into the media. Not that I really wanted to anyways, and then I go in there and I'm answering questions and so many of them, they want to ask me about it because it's buzzing. You can hear them even talking, but some of them kind of ask me to the side. They're like, all of these, numbers adding to 316, 316, 316. And a few of them to the side, they're like, "Oh, that's a big coincidence." Like they don't even want to ask in the microphone, And they're like, "Wow, what a big coincidence." Something like that to me. And
Coincidence?
Yeah. And I said,
That's what they call it?
a few of them on like the side because they don't even ask it. And I said, well, we could
Massive.
believe it's a really big
That's a
coincidence.
that's
Or we could
huge.
believe that we serve a really big God.
Huge.
And it's just one of those
Serve a really
moments
big
for
God.
me. And I think God used it and for a lot of people, but I also think he was trying to teach me something too. And that one, we have no idea what he's doing. But even when we know the truth, how easy our eyes and our heart can leave it. And it was very humbling
Not
for
notice
me.
it.
And even going back and celebrating with my family and friends, and we had so many that were in town, it was a celebration with also a conviction, if that makes sense at the same time. And And God's done so much of that. Even when I've told the story a few times on some different shows, it's, gone viral on that. And people, one of the first things that people mention when I'm in South Africa with my wife, John 3:16. And, it's just so humbling that I could just be a part of it. But there's a piece of me that feels unequipped and like unworthy that God would do some of that with it. And
I think we all feel unworthy at times.
and I would say that the more I've been able to process that, the more I could say, man, I'm so grateful and celebrate it. But I never want to get to that place again where I think, God, you did something, but you're done. Because we have no idea what he's doing and how he's using it. And I don't want to put God in a box. And I feel like so many times I've had, and we have no idea what he's doing. And do you know all the things that had to happen at the end of that game for all of that to change? I mean, the fastest overtime in NFL history, one play, 80 yards in the exact amount of time. And one of those things go off, all of them go off. And yet, just, it's what our God does, just more than we could ask, think, or imagine. And definitely because we don't deserve
Dominoes.
it.
Bam, 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 bam. One thing, everything goes. Oops.
I wonder how many people were on the fence and then saw that happen and realized it was real, that he is real. A lot of people.
Hope so.
Pretty amazing.
And tell something else that's cool about the 316 is several years ago, Camille goes, we're sitting in our office when she joined the team, and I said, Camille, what breaks your heart the most? And she said, she wrote down the number 20,000. And I said, 20,000, what does that mean? And she said, it's the boys and girls that law enforcement can see their rape and abuse images, but they have yet to be identified. And they're all sitting in the ICSA database, which is at Interpol. And it's the database that from 68 countries that house all this material. And we believe there's about that many. And we talk and we know we have to do something. And she's just a force for it. So we convene a meeting in Lyon, France with so many of the major players in this space to find out what is the ground truth for this, right? What is the number? And it wasn't 20,000. It was closer to 57,000 boys and girls that law enforcement can see their rape and abuse images, but have yet to identify them. And so we come up with a plan with partnerships, and especially with HSI and C3, and they're just the tip of the spear when it comes to this, and partnerships with countries all over the world. And that leads to Operation Renewed Hope 1, led by C3, but with a lot of countries, and and Interpol and NCMEC and Europol and so many, and Google, so many people that were part of this. And
such good work.
And so that operation to identify these boys and girls takes place, and it finishes. And one of the men that are leading it, that's just a warrior for kids and good, calls me when it finishes. He said, I don't think you'll believe this, but you want to know how many, the official number that have been identified at the end of this operation? 316. And he almost couldn't tell me. Like he was so blown away when he was telling me that, and we were
wow.
And I don't know if that's a God wink moment but it was a special moment. And then I want to share something I've never shared before. Can you ask Kevin to bring my phone up if he has it? I'll need my phone to share something that I've never shared before, but I think this would be
Sean Ryan don't
perfect.
a cool time.
Sean Ryan don't he don't do phones.
Wow.
He has them in a special bag because he's an ex-Marine. He don't trust
I'm sorry,
nobody.
Kevin. I should have had my phone.
In his studio, he don't have phones.
So then, Operation
Be hacked.
Renewed Hope 1 was really groundbreaking in this space, and it just changed so much of the game. And so all the partners led by C3, the Cybercrime Center, and DC and HSI, we got to replicate this again. And it's a really cool model of all these countries coming together to be able to identify as many and then to go rescue them. And so then we have Operation Renewed Hope 2. And when that finishes, we're actually in a lot of our team and law enforcement and partners are in Romania doing a special training there and in a whole lot of areas against this. And we're at dinner after that's finishing, and we're in this like Romanian type tavern and with all these law enforcement that are just heroes. I mean, just been battling the worst evils, right? And we're sitting with all of them. And so one of who's come to become a friend of mine, he's been dealing with this a long time, faced a lot of evil in the world, gone through a lot because of it. And he's sitting across from me and he's like, man, I got to tell you, when, I saw the John 3:16 story, and when I realized that it was 3:16 after Renewed Hope, it's blown away. I couldn't, it's just, I couldn't handle it. And he said, so now Operation Renewed Hope 2 just finished, and we identified 417, and we're sitting in Romania. And he said, so what does 417 mean? And I said, I don't know what that means. And he said, well, look it up. Like, go to the Bible. What is it? And I'm like, which 417 do I go to? And he's like, just pick one. And so there's like 25 people sitting there, and we're all sitting there. I don't know. And so I go, go 1 Corinthians. I don't know. And he goes, okay, tell me what 1 Corinthians 4:17 is. And again, I just say this in all humility of maybe a God thing, but it also broke my heart. And so he goes, okay, read 1 Corinthians 4:17. And I didn't know 1 Corinthians 4:17. And so the whole table gets quiet, and I read it, and this is what it says. For this reason, I have sent you Timothy, who is my beloved and faithful child in the Lord, and he will remind you of my ways which are in Christ Jesus, just as I teach everyone in every church. And he goes, you have got to be something else kidding me. And I was like, what? I didn't know that.
Timothy.
And so
Tim.
it was just a moment where it has nothing to do with me, but it's
Mad moment.
maybe one of those moments where it's just a God wink moment of
Wow.
it.
God wink.
And
God wink. God wink.
still to this day, this
My new
officer
word.
will
God wink.
put a lot of text and stuff as 3:16/417. I've never shared that story before.
Wow. Maybe a God wink moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any maybe about it. I mean, there are no coincidences. That's incredible.
Too many things fell
Wow.
in place.
I love this conversation, man.
I'll read this. Washington, D.C., according to Homeland Security investigation, HSI, Cybercrime Center, Child Exploitation, Investigations Unit completed Operation Renewal Hope, resulting in the generation of 311 probable identifications. Brilliant. Of previously unknown victims, including 14 positive contacts, and confirmed the rescue of several victims from active abuse. This 3-week surge began 17th of July and was the first US-based multinational collaboration led by HSI and Interpol, working together with the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children in partnership with the Tim Tebow Foundation. Go Tim. HSI noted that Operation Renewal Hope consisted of HSI special agents, victim identification specialists, computer forensic analysts, and criminal analysts who worked side by side with domestic partners from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the International Center for Missing and exploited children in partnership with the Tim Tebow Foundation, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Justice Department's Child Exploitation and Obscenities Section, the FBI, and the Northern Virginia Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, alongside international partners from the Interpol, Europol, Australia, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Colombia, Ecuador, Estonia, France, Germany, Ireland, Spain, and the United Kingdom. Over a dozen victim contacts have occurred to date, and these will continue as law enforcement all over the world work collaboratively to find and protect these victims. Officials are now saying that Operation Renewal Hope is most likely the most successful operation of its kind. Brilliant. Mike Prado, Deputy Assistant Director of the HSI Cybercrime Centre, said the results of Operation Renewed Hope exceeded our wildest expectations in the sense of being able to identify children who have been abused for, in many cases, years. Amazing. Amazing work. Go, Tim.